Welcome boys and girls from YouTube. My name is Sloth, this is SlothForge, and thanks for stopping by on today's video. Today we will have an in-depth look at the PvP areas of this game. And the reason why I'm doing this video right now, today, is because of the Apex Clash. Because as you can see, this is a new event that just opened up today or yesterday, and it has extremely good rewards, but it is focused around PvP. It is your realm-wide arena ranking that gets counted, or that is counted for the Apex Clash. And as you can see, those rewards are extremely good. Now you will probably not rank first, second or third in this event, because otherwise you would have extremely good account, extremely good roster, and then this video probably is not that interesting for you, to be honest, but I can try to make this guide to help you to reach somewhere in this area. Maybe you will even reach the top 50, even though it is very hard, especially if you are on those original servers, on those reborn servers. Then it is extremely hard to rank so high, because there are so many active players with extremely well developed hero rosters, and also just a lot of knowledge when it comes to PvP and to Dragonheir in general. So if you are on one of those first 10 reborn servers, then you will have a very hard time, probably even a hard time to reach top 300. But if you are on any later released servers, then you can be very confident to reach some higher rankings in this Apex Clash, and you will get very good rewards for doing so. As you can see, like 30 of those soul fragments, if you are in top 20, is extremely good. Like it's more of a half an legendary hero. So it's just very, very good rewards. Also, some Master Scrolls are always nice. And yeah, as you can see, for the top 10 players, they actually even get Berenger soul fragments, which is insane. But even for the top 300, 10 of those soul fragments is very, very nice. And at least some of those master pages, which is also very, very useful. So just in general, extremely good rewards. This is why every one of you should at least focus a little bit on PvP. Now, on the other hand, if you don't enjoy PvP, if you are like me, and you just enjoy those PvE areas way more, then don't stress yourself too much. Just ignore PvP, and you will be fine as well. Maybe you will miss out a little bit of progress, you will miss some rewards here and there, but in the end, it is not the end of the world. And if it is not fun for you, if it feels like work to do PvP, then you should absolutely just skip PvP, because it is a game. At the end of the day, it's still only a game, and you want to have fun when playing a game. So this is just a general advice from me. And now let's get into the PvP strategies and tips and tricks that I want to give you today. First, I want to talk with you about some overall strategies and overall tips for PvP. Then I will show you some meta teams, and not only meta teams, but also those meta heroes in general. And then the last part, we will talk about how to counter those teams, because a very interesting part about PvP, and this is not only for Dragonheir, but for most PvP areas in all kind of games, that there is most of the times not the strongest hero, not the strongest team. For example, those Hvitar teams are extremely strong, and it can feel like they are impossible to beat, but actually they just have a counter. You can counter those teams relatively easy if you know how to counter them. And this works for nearly every single PvP team out there. So it is not the strongest team. The meta here is always, it's fluently. So yes, it's not like Vortex, where for the where for the whole first season, Wild is the strongest without a doubt. So it is. And it is not that Hvitar is the strongest PvP team right now. If we have a look at the top 10 teams here, we will recognize that there is another team that is now heavily used. Now here is one of those Frost teams. It's actually not using Hvitar, but instead it is using Premsa, which is also very interesting actually. But as you can see, those teams, those are those Radiance teams, or actually Nastjenka teams. As you can see, most of the people here on my server right now are using those Grishna Nastjenka teams. But also, as you just saw, here's a team, typical Frost, Permafrost team with no Hvitar, while here is a Permafrost team with Hvitar and Oster. So as you can see, there is a big variety of heroes actually, of teams actually, when it comes to the top 10. Just to showcase you, here's a team around Lalbanas. This is all within the top 10. So just to showcase you that there are now 4 different strategies for different teams in the top 10. So it is not very straightforward meta, but instead very fluently moving meta, and you just have to adapt every single time for every single fight. And I absolutely can understand why people enjoy PvP, because yeah, there is a lot of knowledge that will help you to reach higher rankings in the arena. And now before we get into this, I'm sorry guys, I'm already talking for like 6 minutes. Before we get into this, one quick disclaimer: I am not that much into PvP as well. There are people that are that have way more knowledge when it comes to PvP. Probably some of you have way more knowledge than I do. So then please feel free to comment below and give us some of your tricks and tips as well. Just try to explain your team if you are using a team that I'm not going to showcase here now. And just in general, there is so much to know about PvP, and I don't know everything about PvP. It's not even close. I just try to give you some overall tips, strategies, teams, and counter strategies. So now let's get into this. And the first important part to know, or is that actually this is not important, but it is a good tip. The very first tip that I can give you is you should probably not use your offensive team for your defensive lineup, because there are those stall teams, and those stall teams are extremely annoying, and some people just have big issues with those stall teams. Now, if you don't know what a stall team is, let me explain to you this really quick. A stall team is a team that does not have access, or that is not using an offensive hero. A stall team is only using defensive heroes, because when it comes to your defensive lineup, you don't need to win the fight. All you have to do is to stay alive long enough so that your opponent is not winning the fight for those 3 minutes. And if he is not able to manage to kill your team within those 3 minutes, then you have won your defensive. So this is why those stall teams can be very, very interesting, can be very useful for many players out there. So just to show you real quick how one stall team could look like. As I said, a stall team does not need any damage heroes. A stall team only needs 5 heroes that help you to stay alive. So for example, some extremely strong heroes are Philosia, Asilia. Also Journ, of course, is extremely great for one of those stall teams. And probably, yeah, if you have Mithrasia, you know she is probably one of the strongest heroes for those stall teams, just because she is able to revive your whole team. And there are also some very strong epic heroes here as well for those stall teams. Also, Ergander is one of those heroes that is extremely annoying for those stall strategies, because he is so hard to kill. He places attack penalty, which makes it harder for your opponent to kill you. Also, he places immortality on himself. He has a little bit of control as well. Also, ultimate down. So just in general, Ergander, extremely strong for your defensive teams. But also, probably Lucian is also extremely strong, but I'm not sure if I would use Lucian in one of those stall teams. I would highly prefer some heroes that are just harder to kill. And your Lucian, he is more of an annoying hero. He tries to disrupt your opponent's backline, just his strategy in general, with all those ultimate down and frozen and recharge speed penalty debuffs. So probably Lucian is not the best hero for this fight, but someone like Gyarius here fits also very good into this team. Just in general, heroes that can heal for good amounts, heroes that are hard to kill, or ideally heroes that can revive. Just a stall team, try to build something like this for your defensive, and you will see that you will win more and more fights with time, just because, as I said, many teams out there struggle with those stall teams, because they need a lot of damage if they want to kill a stall team. Now, okay, let's let's talk about stall teams first, then we talk about those other strategies. Now, the question is, if you face one of those stall teams, what can you do to counter those stall strategies? Because you will probably not win against a stall team with your typical Hvitar team. Maybe you will, but I'm not sure. Especially if they have access to Mithrasia, then you will have a very hard time facing those stall teams. So instead, for those stall teams, you want to use a hero that gets stronger over time. So for example, the best case scenario in my personal opinion is Lelvanis for those stall teams. Because Lelvanis just gets so much stronger over time, and if she reaches her 50 or up to 70 of those stacks, of those Dragonblood stacks, then she hits so hard and can probably one-shot a whole team, even if they have someone like Veloja and Journ. Even if they are at full life and also have those big shields, even then you can probably one-shot them with your Lelvanis if she has her 50 stacks of Dragonblood. So to counter those stall teams, you could think about a team like this. It is still a very stallish team. As you can see, I'm using a tank, Journ, and Mithrasia just for heals and survive and revive in general. Also, I'm using Journ just because he places attack penalty, which helps a lot to survive, and also he can heal a little bit and cleanse those debuffs. So he is also not here for damage. We're only using Lelvanis for damage, and it takes at least 30 seconds up to 1 minute before Lelvanis starts to deal a good amount of damage. But this is absolutely no problem when it comes to those stall teams, because you don't need so much survivability actually when you're facing a stall team. You could, in theory, replace one of those supportive heroes with a second DPS unit as well. But I find that Lelvanis is actually enough for this job just because she gets so strong. But now, of course, if you don't have Lelvanis, then just use 2 DPS instead of Lelvanis and, for example, Gulende or, of course, Mithrasia. You probably don't have Mithrasia. But please keep this in mind as well. Those teams that I'm showing you here right now, you don't have to rebuild them exactly. It's more of the particular role that those heroes have. Like, for example, Journ, he is only here for heals. Berengar, he is only here for tankiness. Nothing more, because as you can see, I'm not building him with a lot of accuracy, so he is not really placing his debuffs. Here and there, he lands a debuff, but he is mainly here for tanking purpose. For Gulende, he's mainly here for attack penalty and cleansing those debuffs. And Mithrasia, you can use any other healer instead of Mithrasia as well, and it will work absolutely fine as well. So, and same with Lelvanis, she's just my DPS hero that I'm using here right now, but there are many other DPS heroes that you can use here as well. Especially for, as I said, just to repeat this once, for those stall teams, I would actually recommend to use 2 DPS heroes because there is nothing you have to fear when it comes to those stall teams. They won't kill you. They have way too less damage. So now this is the first part, those stall teams. Now second, let's talk about those classical or Hvitar teams. Those Hvitar teams can be very annoying as well. And you can counter those Hvitar teams relatively easy actually. Because at least if you have access to Nastjenka. Nastjenka, she is probably the strongest counter for those Hvitar teams. But if you don't have Nastjenka, don't turn off now this video, because there is another very strong hero that does what Nastjenka does as well, who is probably in some areas actually a little bit better even than Nastjenka. It is Caraman. It is this epic hero, Caraman. And what makes Nastjenka and Caraman so strong for countering those Hvitar teams is because they can jump to an enemy, and they focus the enemy with the current lowest HP. And in 9 out of 10 cases, the hero with the lowest HP, the lowest current HP, is Hvitar at the start of the battle. As you can see now, she has like 94,000 HP. Alrighty. So it is actually, okay, it is nice. He has still less HP than Lysenia, but it is close. And you have to check this every single time before you start a battle, because here you can see it. Now Gulander, he has less HP than Hvitar. So the person that built this defensive lineup probably had this in mind. The person probably had in mind that I can use Nastjenka to one-shot her Hvitar. And I mean literally one-shot Hvitar. Sometimes it takes like 2 or 3 seconds longer, but I saw Nastjenka one-shotting Hvitars a dozen of times. And if you want to counter this, then the probably best strategy is just to place another hero on your battlefield who has even less HP than your Hvitar, because then Nastjenka will use her battle skill and jump to this hero instead of Hvitar. Now, this is good to know, and this is why I would always recommend you, at least if you want to really progress as good as somehow possible in the PvP areas, to always check your opponent's heroes, because now I know that I won't be able to use this particular strategy to counter that team, because I will one-shot Gulander, but this will not help me that much actually, because Hvitar will still probably be able to one-shot my team. But there is a second hero. There is a second, it's 100% other strategy that is also very good to counter Hvitar as well, and it is Zephy. It is this granny rat. She is as well so strong, and she is so good at countering Hvitar, because especially if those Hvitar teams don't have access to Electribi, then you will be able to stack as much skill haste as possible on your Zephy, just with negative and positive runes, and also with 2 of those sets. Cyril's Whisper, Radiance of the Blue Oak, and Holy Hunter are the 3 sets that provide a little bit of skill haste as well. And you can use those 3 sets, or 2 of those sets, to provide as much skill haste as somehow possible on your heroes. And then you will have a very fast initial recharge timer on your ultimate on Zephy. As you can see now, it was like 10.3 seconds, while Hvitar will use her ultimate after 12 seconds. So we will be, without a doubt, faster than Hvitar with our Zephy ultimate, and Zephy just places defense up, but also invincibility on our heroes. So the one trick that Hvitar wants to do to one-shot your team, Zephy will 100% deny this. She will keep your whole team alive, and especially for those Hvitars that are using the lucky playing cards, those are Hvitars that are built to one-shot you relatively fast, and those Hvitars get weaker over time, because most of the time those Hvitars are built with relatively low crit rate, so it's the first and second ultimate that hit the hardest, and from now on they will hit not that hard. So especially for those lucky playing cards Hvitars, Zephy is a hard counter. Zephy is extremely strong to counter those Hvitar teams. And now, yeah, those are the first 2 strategies to counter those Hvitar teams that I am using. But as I said, you could use Caraman instead of Nastjenka. He does actually nearly the same. He also jumps to the enemy with the lowest current HP, and he also can reset the skill if he kills those enemies. So your Caraman can kill a whole team relatively fast if he is built properly. Now this is the second team, those Hvitar teams. Now we talked about stall teams and Hvitar teams. Now let's talk about those grindy teams. I just call them grindy teams because I don't know how to call them. And as you saw, my main team is one of those grindy teams. Or is not my main team, but the team that I've used, especially in the first couple of weeks the most, is this team built around Galvanis. And I call it a grindy team because this team gets stronger the longer the battle goes. And when you want to counter those grindy teams, the strategy as well is relatively simple. Burst them down. Now, especially if you have Premza is also extremely strong at bursting, but the probably strongest burst hero out there to burst a whole team is Hvitar. So if you want to face or to beat those grindy teams that use someone like Verbanis or another hero that just gets stronger over time, then your best strategy is just to burst them down. Then they cannot sustain themselves or they cannot heal themselves because they are just one shot. So this is another team that you can use your Caraman or your Nastjenka as well. If you are able to kill the healers of those grindy teams, then those grindy teams have a very hard time to stay alive as well. So Caraman and Nastjenka are once again also very strong to counter those grindy teams. So this is why I would actually not recommend you to use one of those grindy teams for your defensive, just because there are many different ways to counter those teams. But on the other hand, as I said, all of those teams have their particular counter. Also, this Nastjenka team here as well is relatively easy to counter as well. For example, one very easy counter strategy for Nastjenka is just to use a summon hero that summons a small summon unit. So for example, you could use, for example, even Ladelia. You could also use Ursilas or someone. Just as long as they summon a small unit, Nastjenka will focus the small summoned unit instead of your heroes, because the small summoned unit will have the lowest HP. So this is one strategy that you can use to counter those Hvitar and Caraman teams. Another very strong strategy is just to build a second tank on the field and try to focus on your tank with only defense. Only give him defense or accuracy, for example. You can give him any stats except for HP. If you can manage to build a tank with full defense but very low HP, then this is probably the by far strongest counter for those Nastjenka and Caraman teams, because they will focus those heroes. They have to focus those heroes because of how their skills are coded, of how they are written, because they always jump back those heroes with low HP, but they will never be able to kill them if they have enough defense. So this is another very strong counter strategy for those bursty Nastjenka and Caraman teams. And just to show you another Caraman team while we're talking here is this team. This is also a very, very interesting team, and you don't have to use those particular heroes. As I said, there are many other options for those heroes as well. But just to give you an overall strategy or an idea of this strategy, Journ, he is an extremely strong PvP hero because of his ultimate. He can reduce ultimate energy, so he is just like a weaker version of Electribi, and you know how strong Electribi is. So, extremely strong hero that way too less people using Journ right now, and people that use Journ are most of the time very, very successful with him. So I would definitely recommend you to use Journ, or at least to give Journ a try. But if you use Journ, you want to build him with a lot of accuracy and as much skill haste as somehow possible, once again, so that you can use his ultimate before the enemy team and just disrupt their whole strategy. Also, Journ can place attack penalty, which is once again very useful, and he can place a defense up, which is very nice as well, and he can provide a little bit of ultimate energy to your team. So he is, as I said, a weaker version of Electribi. He steals a little bit of ultimate energy and also provides ultimate energy to your team. So Journ, you should definitely give him a try. Another very strong hero is actually Sigrid. There are two very strong parts about Sigrid. First, you could use Sigrid as a DPS hero, as a damage dealer, as your burst hero, because she can hit the whole team with her ultimate. But you can also use her as like a hybrid champ, like hybrid of support and DPS. For example, Gulende is also a very, very strong hybrid hero, because they are relatively similar actually. Both of them apply attack penalty, both of them are able to apply healing prohibition, and both of them, Sigrid and Gulende, can deal relatively good damage with their ultimate. So you could think about using them as hybrid builds, and it will probably you will probably be very successful with this strategy as well. But if you use Sigrid, then you want someone else in your team who is a little bit faster than Sigrid and who applies a lot of debuffs on the whole enemy team. For example, Boris is just perfect in combination with Sigrid because he applies the buff prohibition on the whole enemy team. And if you give him the Which Remains, then you will here and there actually one-shot the enemy team with the Boris Sigrid ultimate combination. Because first you place the defense penalty on the whole enemy team, and then your Sigrid can just one-shot the whole team, which is very fun to watch. Now, another very important part when it comes to Boris is just that he is in general a very strong hero. And Boris, now just to give you another idea of how to counter enemy teams, Boris is extremely strong at countering Zephy. And you will face Zephy here and there as well. And all what Zephy is about is her ultimate and placing this defense up and invincibility buff on her ultimate. Now, if your Boris is faster than the enemy Zephy, then you will just place the buff prohibition on the whole enemy team, and therefore Zephy all of a sudden does nothing. She provides nothing apart from her ultimate. Now, of course, she provides a little bit some small shields and dispelling some buffs, but it is all about her ultimate when you use Zephy in PvP. So Boris is a perfect counter for those Zephy teams, as long as he is faster than Zephy. Another extremely strong hero here is Garika. Now, I don't have enough scrolls to book her up, because if I would have more scrolls, I have some scrolls left, but I really have to save them for Season 2. But Garika will probably be the next hero that I will book a scroll up, just because she is so strong. She does so many different things. She as well places buff prohibition, and buff prohibition is so strong in PvP. Also, accuracy bonus is very, very interesting. She can also steal a little bit accuracy penalty, she can place it as well, and she also can steal a little bit or reduce a little bit of the ultimate energy with her passive as well. So such a strong hero, very, very strong kit as well. So Garika is another hero that you should definitely try if you have her and did not use her in PvP yet. And now this is, as I said, another very, very interesting team, and you can use alternatives for all those heroes, obviously. But just in theory, this team can do a very good job as well. It is you also try to burst the enemy with this team. You don't have much healing when it comes to this team. But you can swap the team a little bit around here and there. You could use someone else instead of Boris. And if you struggle to heal, or if you have enough damage with your Caraman, you could use someone else for Sigrid. But yeah, as I said, Sigrid has a lot of different purpose. And one of her biggest upsides is that she can place a healing prohibition on the whole enemy team. So this is also useful to counter those stall teams once again. And just in general, those teams that use Journ in combination with another healer. Then Sigrid is extremely strong because she can counter those strategies. But now I think we're already at nearly 30 minutes. I'm so sorry, guys. But as you can see, there is a lot of knowledge, a lot of in-depth knowledge and just know-how that you need if you want to be very successful in Arena. And obviously, I did not mention everything. There is so much more to mention when it comes to those meta teams and how to counter those meta teams. If I forget anything, or if you want to add something because I did not mention it, or you just disagree with something, please, as always, feel free to comment below. I'm always very, very interested in your opinions, especially when it comes to PvP, because many players out there, most of you probably, are more educated when it comes to those PvP strategies and metas in general. But now, one last thing I want to talk about real quick is gear, because there are some gear sets that just get so much stronger in PvP. First, the Magic Crystal Refinement. Especially for your hybrid heroes like Sigrid or Gulende, this is a very, very strong set. Just to mention those sets real quick, I don't want to talk about those sets in depth, just to give you an idea of some sets that you should definitely consider to use for PvP. The Magic Crystal Refinement, for your hybrid heroes at least. Another extremely strong set, probably one of the strongest PvP sets, is the Monolith's Teardrop set. And you want this set probably on every one of your heroes. You want this set on your tanks, but even more important, you want the Teardrop set on your DPS heroes. On your Nastjenka, on your Caraman, especially on your melee damage units, you want the Monolith's Teardrop set. Without a question asked, this is the first set, the first item that you should always try to prioritize for your damage units. Because those 3 seconds of immortality, they help you so much. And especially also your Hvitars, for example. It secures your Hvitars from a one-shot. So this is just such an important set, and you should always try to use the Teardrop set on every single one of your damage heroes. Another extremely strong set, as I already mentioned, is the Cyril's Whisper set. It is one of those 3 sets that can give you a little bit of skill haste, and you want as much skill haste as possible on some of your heroes. Especially heroes like Electribi, Zephy, Vorish, Journ, all those heroes that try to disrupt or slow down the enemy strategies. All those heroes want as much skill haste as somehow possible. Also Tamar, for example, she just wants 2 things, accuracy and skill haste. So the Cyril's Whisper set is definitely a very strong set as well. Now when it comes to those defensive stats, the Revenge of the Fallen set is also very interesting actually, especially for your tank and especially in combination, once again, as always actually, with the Teardrop set. But actually I wanted to talk about the Tundra's Tenacity set, because this is, in my opinion, a little bit better. Now, the Revenge of the Fallen set is useful, it helps you to deal a little bit more damage, and sometimes it can be the difference, but it is not the strongest set. On the other hand, Resistance is sometimes very useful for PvP. But the Tundra Tenacity set for your tank, especially tanks like Garius or Berengar, the Tundra Tenacity set is extremely strong, because every single time that your hero takes damage, he gets 1% of ultimate energy. So heroes like Garius that just want to use their ultimate as often as possible really like the Tundra Tenacity set. And especially if you only have 1 tank and your opponent has no ability to jump into your backline, then for the first couple of seconds, your tank hero, will get so many hits. So this will help him to reach his ultimate so much faster. So the Tundra Tenacity set is a very, very strong set for PvP. Another extremely strong set for PvP is the Radiance of the Blue Oak, because once again it provides skill haste, but also it gives you this small recovery over time for 10 seconds, and is also very good in combination with the Teardrop set once again, because now the Teardrop set triggers and you will immediately start to gain life again back. So especially for your tanks that use the Teardrop set, or especially if you only use 1 tank, then you could consider to go with the Radiance of the Blue Oak set in combination with 1 piece of the Teardrop set. And it will just make it so much harder for your opponent to kill your tank. Also, the Ancestral Protection is another extremely strong set. Just in general, those defensive sets are all very strong for PvP. First, it is very good because it provides a lot of defensive stats, and your tank, just in general, gets a little bit less damage, but he consumes the damage that your DPS heroes get. And especially for if you face a team that uses someone like Hvitar, then the Ancestral Protection set is very strong, because it just makes it so much harder for Hvitar to one-shot your team, because 15% of the damage that she deals to every single of your other heroes gets transferred to your tank. And also your tank just gets less damage. So if you don't have Zephy, then the Ancestral Protection set is probably your second best option to counter those Hvitar teams. And now when it comes to those supportive sets, the Brotherhood Spirit set is not bad, don't get me wrong. What is very nice about this set is that you can stack those 3-piece effects. So you don't stack them, but you can use this set more than once on different heroes in your team. But 15% increased damage is not that important in most of the fights. They are just, it is strong, don't get me wrong, but they are just way stronger options. For example, the Holy Hunter set. The Holy Hunter set is probably one of the strongest PvP sets out there. First, it provides another, it's a third set out there that provides skill haste, and the 3-piece effect helps you to inflict stuns. So especially heroes like Varish or Zaloth or Losenya, for example, just in general, heroes that hit multiple times with their battle skill or ultimate skill. They really love the Holy Hunter set, because now they also can inflict stuns. And those stuns in general, are probably the strongest control effect in the entire game, because if a hero is stunned, he does not recharge his ultimate energy. He just does not do anything. So the Holy Hunter set and stuns in general are so strong. And also the inspiration set. The inspiration set is also interesting, because in theory it is very strong because it provides you ultimate energy. But first, it only provides ultimate energy to allies of the same element, and often in PvP you use more than one element in your team. And also, it is just that in general you want to use, or in theory you would use, the puppeteer set on your fastest hero. But on your fastest hero you want as much skill haste as possible. So on your fastest hero you prefer 2 of those 2-piece sets that provide skill haste over the puppeteer's inspiration set. So it is very strong, and there are heroes that could use the puppeteer's inspiration set, especially heroes that have a natural cooldown of 16 seconds on their ultimate skills. Then the puppeteer's inspiration set would probably be very strong on those heroes, but in general you probably prefer 2 sets that provide skill haste over the puppeteer's inspiration set. But it is very strong in some particular cases as well. And the last set, the Power of Tides. The Power of Tides also is a very strong set because it provides a little bit of resistance. So especially for your backline healing heroes, like for example Journ, the Power of Tides can be very useful as well, because you want your backline, especially heroes like Journ or maybe even Gulende, heroes that cleanse your debuffs, you want to build them with high resistance so they don't get controlled. And then it helps you. Those 60 resistance set points help you. And also, every single time that they successfully resist the debuff, they also heal your team. So the Power of Tide set is very interesting as well. It is not the strongest PvP set probably, but it is very interesting and can be very useful in some particular cases as well. Now, this is when talking about the sets. And now I just want to mention 2 or 3 heroes real quick before this way too long video is finished. But I mentioned most of the heroes that I wanted to talk about real quick, but there are some heroes that I did not talk about. First, Durango. Durango in a stun set is extremely strong as well, because he also can jump to an enemy. He jumps... he attacks all enemies at the start of a battle. Interesting. Okay, I thought that actually it jumps to a particular enemy, but this is even stronger. So just try to use your Durango with the Holy Hunter set, and you will probably be very successful with him as well. So Durango, Holy Hunter set, very interesting. Probably very strong. But there are way more heroes that I have to talk about with you real quick. Felocia is probably one of the strongest PvP heroes as well, because she places so high, so big shields on your heroes very continuously. So if you have Felocia, and you do not only want to use her in your stall teams, but also in your offensive teams, because it just makes it so hard for your opponent to kill your team because of all those big shields that Felocia places on your team. Also, I did not talk about Repekas, but he definitely needs a quick mention in this video. He deserves it because he is so strong as well. His ultimate, not only his ultimate, but especially his ultimate, it can do it all. It's multi-hitting, and it is a bit of randomness involved, which I don't like that much, but all those debuffs are very useful for PvP, and Repekas also deals a good amount of damage. Then he controls as well, so you want to build him with accuracy, because he can knock up enemies, which is extremely strong, and also stun those heroes, which is even stronger than a knock-up. But the knock-up is probably the second strongest control buff, or debuff, whatever. So the battle skill of Repekas is also so strong. And then he also just steals a little bit of the healing. He gains a little bit of the healing that the enemies receive. So he has just a built-in survival skill on his passive as well. So Repekas also extremely strong PvP hero that you should absolutely consider to use in PvP if you don't already use him. Also, a very interesting hero actually is Ladelia, because of her ultimate. This undead summoned unit that she summons deals very good amount of damage and can also just one-shot heroes in the backline. It can just burst the enemy team with her ultimate skill. So Ladelia, also very interesting hero. Also an extremely strong hero that many people still don't know how strong he is Zagomir, because he deals very good amount of damage and also is extremely tanky because he scales with his HP. So you just build your Zagomir with as much HP as possible. Therefore, it gets extremely strong for your enemy team to kill your Zagomir, and yet he also deals very good amount of damage. In theory, you could build him with accuracy as well, but I'm not sure if you want to build him with accuracy actually. I would rather prefer to build him as tanky as possible, with a little bit of additional damage with crit rate and crit damage probably. But you can just try around a little bit with Zagomir. You should definitely try him out in PvP, because he is, as I said, extremely strong for PvP. I already mentioned Ergander, who is also very strong for PvP. And Bion Frey also actually is a very strong PvP hero. Sadly, he does not scale with defense or HP, but only with attack. Because if Zagomir would scale with HP or defense, then he would be top tier as well, I think. Because he has so much control. He can taunt on his passive, he can stun on his battle skill, and also stun on his ultimate. And as I said, stuns are probably the strongest control effects in the game, and he can apply those stuns very continuously. So Bion Frey is also a very strong hero for PvP. Also extremely strong is Oster, especially in combination with Hvitar, because he also can nearly one-shot your team. And yeah, this is why in combination with Hvitar, he is very scary as well. Because now you can only one-shot one of them if you use Nastjenka or Caraman. And then the other hero, Oster or Hvitar, will very relatively likely just one-shot your backline. So Oster also extremely strong DPS hero for PvP. And Lucian, the last hero that I want to talk about real quick. Lucian, he is also extremely strong, because he's very good at slowing down the enemy team, at disrupting their strategy, because he can inflict those frozen debuffs, which are just a weaker version of the recharge speed penalty. And also he can apply recharge speed penalty as well. And he always jumps into the backline. So he does not have to focus the front line, the tank, but he can just jump around on the field, which is very annoying as well. And he also scales a little bit with his own HP, so he also can deal a good amount of damage while also being tanky. So Lucian, extremely strong PvP hero as well, and you should definitely give him a try as well. And I think that's it. I really hope that I've mentioned everything. Now, there are also some very strong epic heroes that we could, in theory, talk about, but I think that we should end this video because we're already at 45 minutes. I'm very sorry, but as I said, this is a very comprehensive guide, and it is not fully comprehensive. There is still so much information missing, but if you're very interested in PvP, if you want me to showcase you some teams as well and just to make a little bit of PvP content as well, let me know in the comments below, and then I will do some PvP videos in future as well. But well, that's it for today's video. Thanks for stopping by and see you in the next one.